Welcome to the new and improved ConfigureITDone Podcast. The ConfigureITDone Podcast is now a place where we interview senior thought leaders in the SAP space across Australia and New Zealand, and the aim is to tap into their knowledge so we can pass on their insights to the listening SAP community. Please subscribe to the podcast and like, share and comment across Castos, YouTube, Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
This podcast is in partnership with the Black Dog Institute, who aim to create a mentally healthier world for everyone. If you wish to donate to the cause, please click the link below.
And we are back. We're back for another edition of the ConfigureITDone Podcast, and my colleague Reid has been invited some fantastic guests onto the podcast. He started off with Carl Mulligan. Carl Mulligan spoke about his career and his consulting experience. And then we were lucky enough to have Karen Vista on the ConfigureITDone Podcast, and she's the head of Sorg Summit, and she was speaking about some of the topics that SAP customers are talking about at the minute. But today, a fantastic guy, again, Chris invited him onto the podcast. And this guy, he's sold 2 consultancies, and he's just started his third, Jarvis Consulting. And he has a fantastic ambition to grow this consultancy to 30 plus people. And he really bases it on honesty, trust and transparency. And he also talks about the secret ingredient to building a successful business and a successful consultancy. So on the podcast today is Robin Apfel. Please listen, like, share and comment and enjoy.
Yeah, welcome to season 7 of the ConfigureITDone Podcast with my colleague again, Chris. Chris, you've brought another amazing guest on.
Yeah, today we've got Robin Apfel from Jarvis Business Consulting. Robin's been working closely with us over the last few months since starting up Jarvis, a new consultancy here in Australia. So thanks for coming, Robin.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's quite exciting to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. So, Robin, let's dive straight in. I want to delve deep into your background. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into SAP, and basically how you got into it and what?
Yeah, sure.
In your career,
I can definitely give you a little bit unusual actually. So, my background is I'm qualified as an engineer, and I finished uni fairly young when I was 21 or so. I had a bursary, so I had to stay and work and do my 3 years, which was actually fine. But my best friend, he got a job with a company called Unilever, and this is going back a long time. I'm a bit embarrassed to talk about the dates, but it was somewhere around the mid-90s. And anyway, we were both very young. He was 22, and he got put on this SAP project, and none of us had even heard of SAP at that stage. In fact, I'm embarrassed to say at university, we didn't even have computer science or anything like that. Literally, I was working with one of those sort of 386 old school machines. But anyway, so this friend of mine, Mike, went down and he was working there, and he took up a FICO position, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And within 12 months, when he was still 22, he got offered a role in New York, all expenses paid, no tax, $200,000. And off he went at 22 years old, and I was working in a workshop, up to my elbows in oil as an engineer, and certainly his looked a lot more attractive. But anyway, after that, I always had SAP in the back of my mind, and I started traveling around the world. Ended up in Perth actually on a round the world trip. Ended up staying there, and lo and behold. Actually, I after I'd done my backpacking and everything, as you are when you're 24. Sorry, this is a long-winded story about how I got into SAP.
Good. I like it.
I went back into engineering. I was working on oil rigs off WA, which was amazing. It was a great experience. I mean, the work was just fabulous. But Mike, this mate of mine, came back and we did a Contiki tour around New Zealand, as you do. And I was chatting to him. I was like, I got to get into this SAP thing, man. Like, what's it about? And
so it was still there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he's flying business class around the world and all this sort of stuff, So, And so I said, "Oh, do you think it's too late?" And he said, "Oh, I don't know. No, it's probably not too late. You know, this is in 96." And anyway, he was trying to people were trying to recruit him into a couple of opportunities. And there was one in Perth, and I was living in Perth at the time. And so I said, "Just give me the guy's number, and I'll go and have a chat to him." So he did, and the guy happened to be a South African dude, which was just, coincidental. And anyway, we ended up in a bar with this guy, him and I, and we didn't talk about the job for about 3 hours, just stayed in the bar, and then we went to watch the cricket. And at the end of that, they actually offered me a job. So they took on my visa, offered me a job. They were going to train me up. And basically, that's how it started. So I got in there. I didn't even know literally never seen an SAP screen, nothing, but they took me on, and that's how it started.
There's a lot in that, Robin, around soft skills and the ability to be able to connect with people and tell a story. And a lot of like SAP consultants are obsessed with the system and being technical. And there's a lot into that and how you got into SAP.
Yeah, I think there are two sides to that, right? Some of the top people in SAP are just those sort of technical gurus that you can never beat. And then at the end of the day, if the system works incredibly well, that's always going to be a winner. I'm just not that guy. Right. So I was much more around the softer skills. I was supposed to be that guy as an engineer and all that sort of gear, but I was always much more around, oh my God, I have to learn this stuff so I can at least, hold my own. But then much more around the softer sides. And I guess I sort of moved away from the hardcore. I did my dues though. I had to teach all the courses. I used to teach the SD Academy, so I had to learn that. But I got a funny story. The very first, I just joined this company, right? And they had a project in Perth at, I won't name them, but anyway, it was quite a large cooperative, and I was told I was going to be a PS trainer. No, I had literally never logged onto SAP in my life, and I went in there. Yeah, and I went in there to do the training, and my main aim was just not to get found out on the first day. So I worked out how to log on and look busy, and like copied the person next to me, and then in the evenings, I would stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning just working out what I had to do just to say. And I did that for 2 weeks. I mean, it was like the most stressful thing I've ever done. But everybody has to do that, right? You just have to survive, and you get through that, and then you sort of just, you learn your way through, I guess.
What's that quote? Fake it till you make it, and then
you know what it's like. You just have to take the opportunity, because if you go in there and say, "Oh, sorry, I don't know how to do this," it's going to be a tough old gig. But yeah, so just carrying on that theme. I mean, so I had the 2 weeks, and then they had no work for me. Mm-hmm. This was a company called Progress Pacific, actually, and they had no work, so it was amazing. I mean, I was still 26. I was fully salaried. I was on like 30% more than I was as an engineer, and so I just travelled. Just lived all around Australia. I was all up and down the Western Australia, all over into the East Coast, and did all that. But eventually, I was thinking, well, it's pretty cool, but I do want to have a career. So I phoned the owner at the time, and I said, dude, this is good, but I need to learn. So the only thing that they had was a gig in Sydney. So I moved over to Sydney and started working as a project engineer, which is just somebody who supports, the PMO office, really. And that was amazing, because that got me onto a project that was doing an implementation in a medical company, and it was a small, close-knit team, only 5 consultants, and we basically ran there for 10 years, and I learned everything in there. I mean, we were in Korea, we were in Japan, we were all over the place, and that's really where I learned my skills as a consultant. And I ended up being project manager, pretty bad one, I'd say, but not everybody thought so, but I hated it. But yeah, that's how I got out of the tech stuff and much more into the softer skills side. I guess that's it.
So I'm fascinated to learn, Robin, to obviously someone there back in 96, they gave you an opportunity based on your soft skills.
So that was you starting out, but now you're on the, you've built businesses and you would have interviewed hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Do you naturally look for them soft skills first, or?
Totally. I mean, yeah, I'm never going to be the person that does the tech interview. I've got, tech experts that'll do that. But my mantra has always been if I see somebody that's really exceptional, I'll hire them regardless. Like if we don't have work, if we don't have anything, I'll just hire them and build the business around them. I think because I don't know. I mean, everybody makes mistakes in judgments of character, but you got to back yourself, I think. And when you can see somebody that has, I don't want to say the gift of the gab, but the ability to set people at ease, the ability to communicate very well, that's 80% of the role actually. Unless you're just doing sort of back end dev work, it's really about taking people along the journey, and that's the hardest part. So yeah, I go in hard for that. That's good.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess you mentioned about your early career. Obviously, the SAP market at the moment, it is a bit of an aging talent pool. For these younger consultants that are coming through, what would you say are some of the challenges that they face, and I guess challenges you might have faced that they can learn from?
It's an interesting one, right? Because I've just started another SAP consultancy 8 months ago, and my whole life I've been concerned that SAP is a dying breed and it's just full of dinosaurs and all the rest of it. But if you have a look at it, I mean, SAP still owns whatever percentage of the Fortune 500 companies, and even though that's the core stuff and there's not that much excitement around all that sort of, they still are involved in all the massive organizations, and they've made so many acquisitions to bolt on and try and compete. They don't always win. For example, in the CRM space, they nowhere compete to Salesforce, but they still do have full stack set of solutions that they're able to offer. And I think coming back to your question, Chris, it's interesting, right? It depends where people want to focus. I mean, some of the new technology that SAP has, the non-core stuff is quite exciting. And the whole concept of that bimodal approach where, you can just do the core and do the flexible edge. I mean, I used to have a business called Blue Leader with some partners, and we were specialized in the CX space, and that was amazing, actually. We did some really exciting things around sales, service, marketing, and e-commerce, and e-commerce, I mean, it's not the leading brand in SAP, but they're very competitive and they're still winning very, very, very big programs. So I think there's a lot of scope as a young person still to learn and get onto those big transformational programs where you can do a lot of different things as well as just the traditional core that SAP is known for. They have a hell of a lot of other areas that you can get your hands dirty in. I guess I don't know if that answers your question.
No, definitely, 100%. But continuing on the line of starting businesses and selling businesses, obviously you've done 2, and this is your 3rd one now.
I'm not selling this one.
What's the secret sauce to a successful business?
I think honestly, I think you just need to be transparent. I think you need to pick a very, very good team. But if I was to name one thing, it would be culture within a company. That's my main focus, actually, always, is to get the culture right, and to try and have fun. I mean, when you're doing these projects and you're in these businesses, there are always going to be a lot of challenges, right? You're going to have delivery challenges. You're going to have huge disappointment on chasing some deals that you come second in. I've come second a lot of times, and you don't want to come second. You want to come last, or you want to win. Basically. So you have the challenges, but if you set the team up correctly, I really think, and that if you get it to a position where everybody's really competent in what they can do, without the pressure there, but if people are just if you give them the freedom to perform, I think, and give them the autonomy in an environment where they can actually go out and succeed and grow and have fun at the same time, that's
it doesn't matter what you're doing then. You can, I do SAP because I just know it, If I was smart enough to build a product and earn money while I sleep, etc., I would. I just don't know how to do that. I wish I did. But whether you're doing Salesforce, whatever, ServiceNow, or not even IT, I think the key is in the culture, and you can feel it, right? You can feel it it's interesting. We had a Blue Leader reunion. Funny, one of the guys just organised it the other day, and we went to this restaurant in the Rocks, and there were people in tears. Actually, when we got back together, they were so moved to be back, actually with the team, which sort of speaks volumes about the culture, right? And it was weird. I felt like I was back home. That sounds so corny, but it really did feel like that. It's kind
amazing,
of it is amazing, right? So I think it's very hard to do. And interestingly enough, at the moment, with Jarvis, the company that we've just started, we've only been going for 8 months, but we don't have an office yet, which is so foreign for me, and I'm really struggling with it. But I sort of put it as a vote to everybody whether or not we get an office, and they said, nah, let's not get an office yet because we're all out on client site. But sure. But I think I'm going to get an office, actually, because I think you need to have that daily contact with people. You need to be in the team environment. I mean, not everybody believes that, but certainly I think, COVID changed the world, obviously, and you don't have to be in the office every day, but I think if you're in sort of at least 40% of the time, it makes a big difference. And you can bounce ideas off people, and get the feeling and have the vibes. And like when I came in here, you go down and you have the coffees and it's just good.
Sure.
So, yeah.
I remember interviewing Clive Mancy. I don't know if you know him, but I asked him, what a successful program looks like to him. And obviously, you interview other people and you get there on time and on budget. And Clive actually said, it's when you have a reunion.
Okay.
2 or 3 years later, and all those people come back. He said that's the sign of a successful program. And it really got me thinking. And you've kind of alluded that again.
It's a challenge, right? And it's interesting. Just going back to when I started at Progress Pacific, which was very interesting. I was so green. Honestly, I look back at that now. I just can't believe what I didn't know. It's like I didn't know anything. And anyway, we were going through, and as I went sort of up the ranks there a little bit, it got to a stage where there were quite a few senior players and quite a couple of shareholders, and there was a major fallout between a couple of the owners in the business, and I was sort of yapping at their heels a little bit. I was really still quite junior, but wow, that just destroyed the company instantly, right? It really, really did for about a year and a half. That was really ugly, and it sort of opened my eyes to what I was saying around the culture is everything, right? If you've got a really strong culture and a really good team, you can sort of conquer any challenges, no matter what they are. You can get through them. But if you have that internal strife where people are not happy, some might be being undermined or whatever it is, it's just destroying, especially in a small business. Often, every large business has politics everywhere, right?
So sure.
I'm not a large business guy, and I don't need to knock at different strokes for different folks. Totally. And there's some amazingly brilliant companies out there. But just coming back to that, I think if you don't get the harmony right in small businesses, you've got no chance, right? So if you see that happening, you just have to get it resolved very, very quickly. And I think the key there is just openness and transparency, right? And get it out on the table and just be fair, just be good to people, and then it'll be good in the end.
And how do you, like, culture is obviously, it is a buzzword, and you hear it all the time. How do you know when you got it right? You sitting back and like, you know what,
I think a lot of it, the business almost starts to run on its own. Not entirely. I've got the big thing about giving people autonomy, and I love giving people the ability to grow a business within a business. And actually, we set that up at Blue Leader. I'd had that at Progress Pacific before, and really, what that means is you might get a team within the business that acts or not as an independent company, but they're a practice, and they might focus. So, for example, at my previous business, we had an e-commerce practice, right? And we had a team, and they did all that, and then we had a CRM practice, and we had a before BTP came around, we called it Flexible Edge, and we had a Flexible Edge. And then as the company grows, you create another practice. And if you give people all the support and the ability to succeed, and then if they work hard and they enjoy the fruits of their labor, I guess, I'm a big one for getting a profit share going, and making sure that, just set them up for success. And the more successful they are, the more successful you are, right? So try and make them as successful as you possibly can. And then, autonomy, they start to just love it, and people have the freedom to perform, but they also have, the secure blanket that they can fall back on, and they know that, if it's times are tough, then they can, almost come back to the mothership, if you like. And it's quite nice, because if you get 4 or 5 practices operating, 3 are kicking goals while the other one is struggling, and so it goes, and then you just move forward as a business. And I think setting up that culture there for them, where they can just have fun and go and do their projects, and only reach out when they need to reach out. Of course, we work as a team and help on all the all the back end stuff, and the sales especially, we would give a lot of support. I think you can just feel it when it's firing, right?
Yeah. I can learn so much from you, Robin. But one question I had as well is, when you invest so much into something, and you mentioned there, you might have 3 or 4 practices and 3 kicking goals and 1's not.
Yeah.
With the one that might not be, how do you know when to cut your losses?
Yeah. I've got an interesting story about that. I think it's tough, right? Because it can be market conditions, it can be anything that changes, it can be personalities. So we try to start a Microsoft business actually at Blue Leader, and it was a huge dilemma as to, you don't realize how hard it is going into a vertical that you don't know. So we hired an excellent practice manager, is fantastic, but the first year and a half was hard. It was really, really hard. You at best breaking even.
Yeah.
But actually, if you were to turn it upside down, you're nowhere near breaking even. So I think it's a difficult one there to answer. If you really feel like it's just not working for whatever reason, I think after you've given it a good go, and so long as you don't pull the carpet out from anybody, if you don't honor what you've said you're going to honor, for argument's sake, but then if it's not right, I would just move on in the nicest possible way, and try and redeploy the people that might be in the team into other teams. I've never actually had to do that.
Yeah.
To be honest, we've never had a practice that we've had to dissolve, which is the Microsoft one was hard, and it's interesting because we got acquired again by DXC. The Microsoft practice really started to kick goals just as we started to get acquired, which was a bit of a missed opportunity, unfortunately. But it swings and roundabouts.
Yeah,
I guess so.
And so obviously now you're 8 months into this new venture with Jarvis. Can you tell us a little bit about Jarvis and where you guys?
I can.
In America?
Absolutely. So
he says that was excitement.
No. It's interesting about how to talk about that. I was just laughing because once again, it's an SAP consultancy, and I think there's a real space in the market for a tier 2. We literally, I've never started from nothing, right? I've always come into, I haven't always, but Progress Pacific, I came in, I knew nothing, and I grew up through the business. And then Blue Leader, when I joined that company, it was already an established brand. They were leading in the market in CRM, lots of other challenges, but they were really sort of, I think, 12 or 13 people.
Yeah.
And it's very different when you start from nothing. And I'd forgotten how hard it is. Actually, just the basic stuff you have to do is tedious, man. You got to become an SAP partner. Now, I know all the leadership team at SAP pretty well, obviously, because I've been working with them forever. But that doesn't help you when you have to become an SAP partner. You still have to put the application in. You still got to do that. You still got to deal with all the challenges of all that sort of gear, and then you got to get all your systems in place, and then you've got to convince people to come and join you, right? So, just coming back to the Jarvis opportunity, I think there's definitely an opportunity both from an employee's point of view, people in the market as well as customers, to provide an alternative to the traditional massive players. Right?
Yep.
I think, and our aim is to be able to provide. I mean, you can't provide the same level of expertise because you're so small. I mean, at the moment we're only 10 people. We effectively started in May, but the aim has been that we can really give some people a really good run for their money in terms of capability. So we've been lucky enough to attract some amazing people, like seriously good players in the market, all very, very senior, people that can walk into customers and go by reputation, right? Based on past lives. And that's the aim. And then also to build the business around them. So what we're doing is we're doing the traditional SAP consulting, getting ready for the supposed wave of S4 migrations that are going to go. I don't mean that in a funny way. It's going to happen, right? But everybody's been calling it for ages. What we don't do, I think we do the traditional consulting. We do project and program management, a lot of strategy work, a lot of architecture work, value realization and implementation, and BTP. So that's our area. We've got a few contractors as well at the moment, and we're winning our first real direct customers, and we're starting to get referenceable projects, which is also, when you start, you don't realize how valuable that is. You really, really need that, right? So that's what we do. We don't do HR. We don't do spend management in terms of Concur, and procurement in terms of Ariba. We do procurement within SAP, but we don't do Ariba. But the rest of the stuff we do.
Sure. And what's some of the challenges been? I know you mentioned the licensing there, but what other challenges have you kind of come across?
Getting people to, I think there are a number of challenges. Obviously attracting people is the one challenge. I'm quite lucky, I guess, in that I've been successful before, so people sort of lean on that success a little bit. But the challenges in the market are for customers actually to take you seriously and for you to get a seat at the table. And the challenges for me is I don't have my team that I used to have. Do you know what I mean? Or our team as a company, it's like, and you got to go out there, and I'm literally pounding the streets. I mean, like, I haven't done that for 10 years. So you go to a customer, you talk to them, you know exactly how the project should run. You've done it 2 or 3 times before, at least. You know the people, but then for them to actually commit to you, and are you a financially viable organization? If you don't do well, are they going to be able to sue you? All that type of stuff, right? Is a challenge just to convince people to go with you. And there's only so far that relationship goes. I mean, a lot of people know me in the market, but again, you still got to get runs on the board, right? So that's the thing, and that's actually been the biggest challenge for me, and the most frustrating part of it is that, oh my God, I just feel like I should be 60, 80 people already, but you got to go through that process. That makes sense. I mean, that sounds like a crazy thing to do, and hopefully I don't get tripped up in it, and hopefully the market hasn't changed. But I think if you just stick to honestly, you just don't cheat people, you're honest, and you do a good job, and you stand up to your mistakes, right? Everybody makes mistakes. There's always a challenge on a project. There's always something that goes wrong in UAT, or there's always something that goes wrong when you're testing. Own it, right? And don't try and BS your way through it. Just come, stand up. It's our fault. We'll get it fixed. And that's how you earn respect, I think.
Sure. And you mentioned, I guess, obviously around the market at the moment, there is certainly a gap around those tier 2 consultancies. And we're seeing, more and more come onto the market at the minute. But what are some of the benefits of customers of using a tier 2 consultancy versus, the likes of a tier 1 and big 4?
Well, I mean, the immediate thing that springs to mind is agility and flexibility, right? Often if you engage a tier 1, you need to have all your legals in place. You need the SOWs signed off, and even the SOWs internally by the tier 1s get reviewed by 100 people you've never met, right? It's just the way it is. And they're very, very careful and cautious around any legalities. I think the tier, number one, the culture and the ease of engagement is just they're streets apart, right? They really, really are. So hopefully you've got the same players, but the team's ready to engage immediately. They can phone you up and say, "Oh, can you help?" And often the tier 2s will just turn a blind eye to some of the checks and balances, I guess. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean in terms of ease of engagement. They'll get in there if there's a problem to solve. They'll just get in. Don't worry, let's not worry about how, but we'll just fix it for you quickly, and then we'll talk about it later. Not only that, so that's the immediate thing that springs to mind. I think value for money as well. Sometimes, not always. I mean, the small guys can't do what the big guys do. Obviously, they can't. But they can be a lot more aggressive in how they operate, and they don't have huge back offers to pay for, right? And I'm definitely not going at. There's a place some people are enjoy large corporates. Some people enjoy both, but there's a place for both. And I think, if you only have the one available in the market, it gets a bit tired, and people want to have both, and they want competition.
Sure. Okay. I'm going to, one of the last questions that we always ask our guests is, and I'm going to ask you to think about this, but who else you would like to invite onto the podcast to listen to, but you don't have to answer that now, because we're talking about Jarvis Consulting. What does the future hold for Jarvis? Like, where do you want to take it?
Honestly, I genuinely think the future's bright for us. For him, SAP just
it's almost a door opener, isn't it?
Absolutely, totally. So we don't really have the door open at the moment, other than our reputation. I'm pondering that and the door opening issue at the moment. But to come back to your answer, come back to your question and answer it, I think we want to be a really fun and good company to be working with, basically.
Excellent. And then
who to bring on? You're asking me, if you go to get Elon on, I think I'd go
with Joe Rogan. I think.
No, coming down. I don't know. Maybe you should guys should go for CEO of, maybe I haven't had a check of who, but maybe a CEO of one of the big large multinationals consulting business. It'd be hard to get them on, right? I don't know, but just to provide a different flavor. So my vote would be Elon first. Otherwise one of those guys.
Robin, I really enjoyed that, and we've learned an awful lot as well. And looking forward to seeing your journey with Jarvis Consulting. But best of luck.
Okay, thanks very much. All right, it was great to be on.
Please like, share, comment, and subscribe to the ConfigureITDone podcast.